Bonjour French 1, this is your section 3.1 notes, all about using that adjective vocabulary in sentences and giving your opinion of certain things and people. As always, keep in mind that you should only write down for sure the words that are on the lines with the yellow background, the words that are in parentheses with the green background. It's your choice. That's some pronunciation help to help you remember how to pronounce these things as we go through them. But again, it's your choice whether or not you write down the stuff that's in green. Before we even get started, I want to remind you that most of these words and phrases cannot be translated word for word. This particular section has a lot of differences in word order and sentence structure from the French language to the English language. So not everything's going to match up word to word. Instead, you need to kind of work on learning what the overall sentence means and less about translating things word for word. As always, I'll pause after I say each sentence to give you a chance to go ahead and repeat after me. And we'll practice saying these at the same time that you're taking your notes. So the first thing we need to go over is asking what somebody is like. So if we're going to be using these in sentences to describe people, the first thing that needs to happen usually is somebody says, hey, what's somebody like? So if you're asking about a single person, you can either ask como est that person's name. So I'll go ahead and leave a pause. You would say como est Julie, for example, for what is Julie like. Again, that is como est Julie. Another way of phrasing that would be to either use the word he or she based on who you're asking about and following that with the person's name. So if we wanted to know what Julie is like again, it would be elle est como Julie. If you want to ask about multiple people, like let's say you're talking about, I don't know, your friends. Tes amis are your friends. If you wanted to say what are your friends like, there are two different ways of asking. You can either ask comment sont tes amis, or ils sont como tes amis. Either way, you just have to make sure that you're actually filling in who you're asking about in each of these questions. Now, these next answers here, the blanks are meant for the describing words. So if you were to ask what is Julie like and you wanted to say she is very beautiful, you would say elle est très belle. But again, you don't always have to fill in the word belle on the blank. You can use whatever you need to use as far as describing words go to answer those questions. If you were to ask about your friends and you wanted to say, well, they're quite or pretty nice, you would say, ils sont assez gentils. And if somebody is between one of the two extremes, if you'll notice, we didn't really learn in between stuff. We learned tall, we learned short, we learned fat, we learned thin. We learned, dark hair, we learned light hair. If you needed something in between, like perhaps Julie is neither tall nor short, she's somewhere in between, you would say elle n'est ni grand ni petit. So moving on from that, I have some examples using some pictures of my kids just to give you an idea of how this would work. If you want to jot the examples down on the back side of your notes just for your own benefit, you can, but really this would just be a time where you kind of want to listen and follow along. So if you were to just see this person or say, hey, there's a little boy over there, and somebody wanted to know, well, what is the little boy like? Two different ways you can ask that would be either comment est le garçon or il est comment. Either way, if you wanted to answer, you would use things like he is or he has certain things. Il est mignon is he is cute, and il a les yeux marrons is he has brown eyes. By the way, this is my 7-year-old Nevin. This is my 13-year-old Hannah. If you wanted to say what is she like, what is the girl like, comment est la fille, elle est comment. Both are ways of asking the same thing. Now, the one thing I want you to notice when I'm describing Hannah is all of the describing words are written in their feminine form, which usually, all of these are regular ones, means adding an E to that masculine form. So whenever you learned all of those new vocabulary words for describing words and you wrote both the masculine and the feminine, make sure when you're actually using them in sentences that you're using the correct one based on who you're describing. So when I describe Hannah, I say things like elle est intelligente et brune. Elle n'est ni grande ni petite. She's neither tall nor short, and she's definitely smart and dark-haired. This is the youngest one, Maisie. Maisie is not quite a year and a half yet. Again, if you wanted to ask what is she like or how is the girl, what is she like, you would say como est la fille or elle est comment. Things I can say about Maisie, again, usually include the feminine form, although remember, you don't have to make eye color and hair color agree. Eyes agree with or eye color agrees with the word eyes, hair color agrees with the word hair. So I would say stuff like elle est mignonne, for she is cute. Elle a les cheveux marrons et les les yeux marrons et les cheveux bruns. She has brown eyes and brown hair. Finally, if you were talking about more than one person, this question says, what are the people like? Or what are they like? Comment sont les gens? The people in this picture, of course, Mr. Dinwiddie and Maisie. Ils sont comment would be a way of saying what are they like. Again, whenever you start using these describing words, make sure you're remembering that you're describing two people. So make sure you're adding your S's. In this case, I have ils sont mignons et génial. They are cute and awesome. And ils sont bruns. They are both dark-haired. Now, the other thing that comes up in this section besides just describing somebody is asking your opinion of somebody. Now, describing somebody usually means you're giving factual information, the color of their hair, the color of their eyes, their height, things like that. But this is their time where you can give opinions of somebody. So if you wanted to ask not what is somebody like, but what do you think of somebody, two different ways. We have comment tu trouves? And you would need to actually fill in the person's name. So, comment tu trouves, Julie? Or, qu'est-ce que tu penses de? Or, qu'est-ce que tu penses de Julie? Notice that there is a place for you to actually fill in the person's name. On these last three lines here that you're writing down, the blanks are meant for, again, describing words, for you to say how you think the person is. If you're describing a boy, you're going to use the masculine word le there. Je le trouve, followed by whatever you thought of him. So if you wanted to say, I think he's smart, je le trouve intelligent. If you think she's smart, je la trouve intelligente. And then if you want to, you can tack this à mon avis phrase. À mon avis means in my opinion, and you can use that to preface any of these phrases. So if somebody were to say, comment tu trouves Monsieur Dinwiddie? What do you think of Mr. Dinwiddie? À mon avis, je le trouve beau. In my opinion, I think he's handsome. But of course, that's not necessarily going to be your opinion as well. And then, of course, you can see the example I have on the screen here. Comment tu trouves Madame Day? Je la trouve belle. I think she's beautiful. Again, make sure that you're using the right phrase as far as a boy or a girl, and then make sure your describing word agrees with that as well. Adjectives are definitely more complicated in the French language than they are in English, but with a lot of practice in class, we can make sure that you get it as well as I do.